really excited about today's guest. We have a really fun topic. We are going to do what's called a paranormal jam session. And today I have Jessica Jones with me. Jessica is a paranormal investigator and a remote viewer based in Northwest Georgia. She is an active field researcher and a member of the Enigma Research Group, Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, and North Georgia Cryptid Research. All are action-oriented research groups which conduct field research associated with all things paranormal and my favorite topic, Bigfoot. Welcome, Jessica.
Hey, Tanya, thank you for having me. Hey, Bigfoot's my favorite too. Yeah,
I love
totally.
me some Bigfoot. And I also want to share that Jessica is the host of is one of the hosts, the weekend hosts of Spaced Out Radio's Off the Trails, which is on Saturday and Sunday evenings at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She also is the host of Remote Viewing Investigations with Jessica, which is on Fridays at 9 p.m. And I was honored to be a guest on the show last week to remote view the Dark Pyramid of Alaska. And how fun was that episode?
That was so much fun. Tanya, you are an amazing remote viewer. And I was so impressed. And we had, not only did we have fun, but we learned a lot. And yeah, I want you to come back sometime. We got to do some more remote viewing. I thought we made a good tag team, kind of.
I love to. That was really fun. And I'm very new to remote viewing. So for me, that was a really exciting thing to do. And I've never really thought about remote viewing those types of things. So for us to do that, and if you guys haven't checked out that video, check it out on Jessica's YouTube channel. What's the name of YouTube?
The Cryptid Huntress on YouTube. Yeah. Go there and you'll find all of my live shows are aired there, and there's like an archive of everything that all my shows. And yeah, it's really fun. I mean, I do paranormal targets. So a lot of them are paranormal attacks, alleged paranormal attacks, like Bigfoot attacks or Dogman attacks, or, I've even done flying dinosaurs, modern day pterosaur sightings, and looked into it. And it's weird. It's really weird, but yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, y'all check it out.
Check it out. It's a really neat concept to remote view some of these things that we have been seeing in the paranormal community. So to really dive a little bit deeper and to take a look at things from a totally different perspective, I think is a really cool niche that no one's really doing right now. So I think that's super cool that you started this show. And I'm really excited to see what types of things come up in future episodes.
Oh my gosh. I've got some good ones. Like every other week I do an attack, an alleged attack. So this coming week, I've got a Dogman attack. So everybody tune in.
Oh, I'm all excited about Dogman. So we're going to talk about some of these cryptids because Jessica's got a lot of stories and information on each of the different cryptids. And but let's talk about the veil thinning, and let's talk about why people are seeing more of this paranormal activity than they were, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Because I know there's a lot more stories out there, and people are starting to come forward with some of these sightings of Sasquatch, Dogman, the Wendigo, even ghosts and apparitions. I know I personally am starting to see more energy and more of auras and different types of things in my own personal life. But I'm curious, what do you think, Jessica, is happening? Why are people seeing more of this paranormal activity?
Well, I think that it's because the vibration is changing of our Earth, of the planet. I think our environment is changing. And I think that our frequencies are rising. And so a lot of people are seeing more because we're meeting these phenomenon at the frequency that they're on now. And I may not be right, but that's what I think. Okay. So I think maybe before we just couldn't see these things that were out there. Now we're seeing them. And so, but they've been here all along. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that's kind of what it is. From all the remote viewing targets that I've done, it's kind of a recurring theme, like especially with the flying dinosaurs. It's the message was it's been here all along, but we just didn't see it, and the veil has thinned. Okay, and that was the same with some of the Bigfoot sightings that I've remote viewed. The veil has thinned. Well, I did a show with my friend Jason on Jason McLean Questions Everything, and it was about the veil thinning, because we both kind of think that it's not just, the veil thinning, it's the vibration changing and the frequencies changing, and so we're just all kind of shifting with it. And I think that, like, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's great. I think it also can be very traumatic for a lot of people, though. So because it breaks everybody out of that three-dimensional matrix reality that we live in, and we've been taught to conform to, and we're seeing things that aren't supposed to be here. So it's like I said, it's traumatic.
It is, and it can be. And I know for me, ever since I was a little kid, I could see spirits, I could see energies. And it wasn't really until I started working in the hospitals in death and loss when I really started to see stuff, but I shut that down. It was like, I remember physically writing down on a piece of paper, I don't want to see apparitions. I don't want to see anything in this 3D reality. Like, it was scaring me. And I remember putting that piece of paper somewhere, and I guess I was making a contract with my higher self. I'm not sure, but now I understand it a little bit better. I'm not fearful of it. I understand it's all based off of energy, frequency, and vibration. And most of the experiences that we have will be based off of energy, frequency, and vibration. So I completely resonate with, we're even moving as Earth, we're moving into a totally different area of the universe, from what I understand, a totally different solar system, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was watching something about that. It's very interesting. So it's like, we are kind of leveling up our frequency with some of these cryptids or, beings or whatnot that have been living in, I guess, maybe the astral plane, the astral realm. I'm not really sure. I mean, are we moving through that third dimension into the fourth, and then up through the, through the fourth into the fifth? And maybe that's why we're seeing more of this paranormal phenomena.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that that's what's happening personally, because I don't see any other way. I don't know what else it could be. But I've heard since I was a kid about the veil thinning, and I always heard that on Halloween night was the night the veil is the thinnest. Well, does that just mean that the frequency is different in the earth? It just, all the atmospheric energies and frequencies and the vibrations change on that one night. I think now it's just like Halloween every day, every night.
Yeah, and you might be able to shed some light on this. It seems like every time I watch a cryptid show or something, it's on a full moon. Like, there's something going on the full moon. The dogman comes out, the werewolves come out, everything is being shown on a full moon. And is it because there's a frequency with that? There's a vibration? Is it because there's more light on the planet at nighttime so we can see things? I just, I watch all these shows, and the guy is, someone's out in the woods and they come face to face with Dogman, and then they say it was on the weekend of a full moon, so I'm like, that's pretty, is that a coincidence, or is that, is there something within, is there a portal that opens on the full moons? It's a question.
Probably. It could be. I mean, I don't know. I do know that when we go out in the woods and it's a full moon, sometimes we get less activity with Bigfoot when there's a full moon, because it's so bright out there. A lot of times we get more activity when it's darker in the woods. We see more orbs, and it's easier to see things in the dark when you're doing field research, when you've got, just for me, I feel like more stuff comes out when it's darker out there than when it's light. So, but that's just my experience.
That's interesting. So let's dive into that. Let's dive into some of your field research around Sasquatch. And I'm, my whole life, I've just been fascinated with Sasquatch. I mean, living in Florida, it was the skunk ape. And then now I'm out in North Idaho, and it's Sasquatch. And there's so many different names. And then, of course, you remote viewed Portlock, Alaska, which is the non-Tanakh. And, there's a lot of different tribal names for Sasquatch and Bigfoot. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper. And I'm going to show a picture here of Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's Patty. That's Patty. That was
one of the famous ones.
Yeah, and when people say Bigfoot, usually that's the picture that everybody has in their minds is Patty. It's a big hulking, black-haired, gigantic. It looks like a primate walking through the woods, right? And that's exactly what I thought a Bigfoot was. And of course, now that's a skunk ape. That looks more like an orangutan kind of, right?
It does.
Yeah, that is from a picture from, believe it was the Sarasota Police Department, the Sheriff's Department
Which
there.
where my sister lives, and she has a story where she was out walking one night in a very wooded area near her apartment, and she smelled a god-awful smell and saw what she saw, the eyes in there, and she to this day thinks it could have potentially been a skunk ape. And she lives in Sarasota.
Wow, it absolutely could have been. I mean, there are skunk apes all over Florida and even in South Georgia. So, we have skunk apes all over the place. I mean, Bigfoot. I had no idea the range of different types of Bigfoots until I started doing field research. And, and in Georgia, we kind of have, they're all kind of similar, looking, and some of them look kind of like skunk apes, but all over the country, they're different and they're different sizes. The ones in the north, I guess it's northwestern, like the Pacific area, they seem to be a lot bigger than the ones that we have down here. And even the skunk apes, they're kind of small, they're like 6 feet tall, 6 to 7. And then you throw in the dog man. Okay. So,
and you're like, what's the difference?
Yeah. Well, I clumped the dog man together with the Bigfoots because I thought, there we go. There's a dog man right there. I just got done remote viewing some dog men this morning. So I'm very just fresh on my mind.
And what's the difference between a dog man and a werewolf?
I am finding that dogmen and Bigfoots, Sasquatches, are not really related. And I thought that they were, but when I'm remote viewing them, I'm seeing a complete difference between the two because Bigfoots, they're the ones that are typically look like a, primate, half man, woman kind of thing. And the dog man does look like a werewolf. It's like a man and a dog, basically. A lot of them, you would be shocked at how many different types of dogmen there are too. There are at least 6 different types. Yes, because I have had to remote view dogman as well. And the one that I saw, the most famous one is the Beast of LBL, which is up in the Land Between the Lakes recreation area in Kentucky.
There's so much activity in Kentucky.
There's a lot. They got the goblins up there. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on up in Kentucky. Must be something very energetic going on up there, a ley line or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Beast of LBL, it was rumored to have, attacked families and murdered people and stuff. So I looked into it and it was not pretty. So, but that's where I learned that there are so many different types of dogmen, and they look anything from like a German Shepherd head to a hyena. Okay. And they're
all
other different types.
They're all over the place.
They're unfortunately, yes, they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they, it's a whole other breed. It's not just, a lot of Bigfoots don't usually get very violent, and the dogmen can be a little different. They're not all violent, but there's something different about them. Let's just put it that way.
Interesting. And so,
yeah.
Is there a interdimensional aspect to the dogman? Like we have kind of researched around Sasquatch. Is that still the same kind of concept that you're noticing in your field research?
Yeah. You know what? I've never encountered a dogman personally. Thank goodness. But I have Bigfoot, and yes, I believe personally that they are interdimensional beings. I don't know if all of them are. I think they are, but we have experienced, tracks when you're following track lines and they just disappear into thin air. See, my team's a little different though. Like I'm a member of, there's 3 different teams, and I go out and research with people from all over the country. Well, one of my teams, we research a place called the Meadow. And in the Meadow, we have, it's basically comparable to the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. Ooh. I mean, we have all that same activity, maybe even more. I don't know. It's a lot. And so, but my team has actually documented what we consider to be a portal opening up in the Meadow. And 2 of our teammates were sent over to it to check it out. They walked over to it and they could not see it. It was a huge box, like a big cube, about the size of a shed. Okay. Like a tool shed or something. And they walked over to it and their heat signatures disappeared.
Interesting.
They disappeared.
That's very common with Sasquatches. Their heat signatures will disappear.
Yeah. So And then they realized that the environment had changed. So what they did was they observed it, and then they turned around and walked back the way they'd come in, but they didn't know that because they couldn't see it. It was just an open field. So they didn't know they had gone inside of anything. But when they walked back, their heat signatures reappeared on the thermals, and they had a story to tell, So when you say it's something interdimensional, I'm not even sure what that means. And my friend Barry Littleton and I were talking about this. We've talked about it several times. It's like, what does that even mean? And how do they do it? Is it just a frequency going up or down? And, are they able to change their frequency from a 3-dimensional to a 5 or something? Or are they just walking into these cubes? Is that how they're doing it? Because the 2 guys on our team said that when they walked into it, the stars disappeared. They couldn't see the stars anymore.
Really?
The vegetation under their feet completely changed. It went from being a muddy and grassy to smooth surface. Yeah. And it was like walking into a black curtain, and the temperature was a little bit different.
Did they feel did their body feel different?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was obviously a lot of times we get a spike of radiation whenever there's some sort of paranormal activity going on out there. And there was a little bit of radiation, and actually both of them got health problems after they had that experience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I question if it is a different frequency. Oftentimes if we raise our vibration, we can sift some of that denser, energy from ourselves. And it's like, maybe they kind of stepped into that portal and it started to clear some of that denser energy that we hold on to here in the 3rd dimension. I mean, who knows?
Ooh, it could have been. Yeah. Well, after they walked back out of it, the cube started to shrink down and it moved until it disappeared. So had they not walked out of that at that moment, when they came out of it, unbeknownst to them, they might have gone with it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, there's a lot of, talk and speculation about Sasquatch somehow morphing into trees or morphing into their environment. Have you recognized any of that in your field research? Have you seen any of that?
I mean, I've heard about it. I've heard a lot about it, and a lot of times they look like trees, and they'll sit there. They're so
like
still, they'll be like a stump. Some people say that they do turn into trees, and that their bodies are made of, they have like is it chlorophyll, I guess?
Chlorophyll.
Yeah, that their hair contains that, is from what I understand. Okay. So I think that there's, like I said, there's a wide range of different types of Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And so I think a lot of them are different. I don't think there's like one set way that all Bigfoots are, So I think some of them are more higher vibrational than others, I've remote viewed some that were just looking for food, constantly looking for food. And I called it, it was more like simple brained or whatever, like where they're just, they're not having intelligent conversations with each other. They're just looking for food and defending their territory, kind of like an animal, And then there's some that are just telepathic and smarter than any of us.
And I've experienced that. Yeah. That mind speak. And I know on your program with Barry Littleton, he had talked about that. When I was, camping with some friends in Western Washington, I was woken up in the middle of the night and kind of guided out into a field. And something was communicating with me. I had no fear. But I lost track of time, like hours had been lost. And so I do feel it's almost like a radio station. You're like, I'm turning into Sasquatch. I'm turning on the frequency of Sasquatch. And when I go out on, I don't do the amount of field research that you and your teams do, but I do have a group of friends that we go out and we will communicate, but we use more like the CE5 protocol, that Close Encounters 5 protocol that Stephen Greer uses for the UFO activity.
We've used it, but for UFO activity,
and that's very effective, because I feel like most Sasquatch hunters are going out there to hunt or to you know, they're loud and, you know, whatever, where it's like, we kind of just go out and sit in the forest and try to connect telepathically. And we've had more activity doing that than, you know, than anything. So that's kind of been our experience. But that's out here in Washington and Idaho, you know, a little bit different.
That's what my team actually does that, you know, and like I said, I'm a member of different teams and they all, you know, each of them operates a little bit differently than the other. And in my one team that we're all trained in remote viewing together. And that's my original team, Enigma Research Group. And when we go out, you know, we're not out there like doing the tree knocks, all the whoops and the things that you hear, like you see on television. That's not how we operate usually. Okay. But we're out there observing and, like what you and your friends do, you know, we're out there communicating and, you know, and there is telepathy going on and mind speak and things like that sometimes. Now, we don't always have activity every time we go out. And honestly, we know that the Bigfoots are out there, but I feel like we've kind of graduated from Bigfoot activity to we have a bunch of UFO and alien ET stuff going on and orbs. And there's so much more going on out there than just Bigfoot. So we know they're there and we respect it and we do appreciate the communication with them. But we have so much other stuff that we're exploring now because it's just really weird out there. Okay.
It is.
It's just really weird.
Let's talk about that because I also have had that correlation with a Sasquatch encounter and an orange orb or some sort of UFO experience. Me and my group of, you know, friends that go out. So let's talk about that. What types of, are you noticing a correlation when there's some sort of a Sasquatch communication and then some sort of an ET communication?
Yeah. Well, you know, the first time I ever went out on an expedition with my team, before I was even a member of their team, I went out for a weekend with a bunch of strange men in the woods and the best thing I ever did. It was like the best decision I ever made. I totally went and I'm here now talking about it, you know, but that was 11 years ago. And I was invited out to go on an expedition. And so I did. And I volunteered to be bait. Okay. And that's where you know, I was the lone female out there that night. And so I was kind of dared to like walk through a field by myself up to the tree line. And the guys were going to watch me through their cameras. Okay. So with their night vision. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it, you know, whatever. And I got up there and, you know, something ran up behind me and knocked my legs out from underneath me as I was walking up there by myself. And it was a little jarring, you know, but, I don't, to this day, I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I assume that it was probably a cloaked Bigfoot. Okay. Cause there was nothing there and the guys didn't see it, but I absolutely felt the energy and the presence and it ran up behind me and I felt it run past me. Okay. Well, the next night, that same field that we were in, one of my teammates, my teammate now, we went up there and we decided to sit up there all day and all night, hoping that a Bigfoot, you know, would step on us. We were camouflaged and blended into the environment. And it was really fun. But yeah, we started having UFO activity while we were out there and we had UFOs flying over our heads that night. And so, and it wasn't just one. Okay. It was pretty wild. And that's actually why my team was trained in remote viewing, was because of that incident that night. We had so much UFO activity going on. So there's absolutely a correlation. Okay. Because we had the Bigfoot, we actually had more Bigfoot activity in that field the night before than just the possible cloaked Bigfoot. But we decided to kind of look into all of this because we saw that it was all connected. We just didn't know how, but we saw that there was just too much activity to ignore it. And we were having orbs and we had trickster spirits, like ghost stuff going on. I mean, we had everything going on out there. And we always do.
Have you checked that area for ley lines? Is there some sort of an energetic vortex?
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on out there. Yeah. And plus it's almost like sacred ground out there or something, you know, there's just something very special about it. And it's not only that, but my whole team is very special. Okay. And so it really makes a difference having people on your team and going out in the woods with people who are psychically switched on.
Yes.
And that are open-minded and that don't discount anything, but we're skeptical, but we have open minds about everything. You know, not everything's a Bigfoot. Not everything's an alien, you know, but we're open to the idea that it could be. So
I love
that's
that.
important.
I think that's great. And I've been my friends will tell you, I've been pressuring them a little bit to do some remote viewing classes because I think what you're doing, because you can actually remote view the area before you even go out there to see, where can we spend most of our time and what types of interactions can we potentially have, when we go out there. And I think that's amazing. And I know, me and my team, we've had a significant amount of UFO experiences, especially here in Spokane. This area is a hotbed. It was actually on Project Blue Book, the first episode, they were talking about Spokane. And I was looking at, I've got several friends in the Sasquatch community, and they were sending me maps of Sasquatch sightings in the area. And Mount Spokane is a huge area for Sasquatch sightings. And also, I think Idaho has been overlooked a little bit. North Idaho, Bonner County is starting to move up in the rankings of Sasquatch sightings. So that's even exciting too. And I know we have a large amount of, I've even seen UFO activity outside of my window at night. I have been woken up at nighttime. I've got a friend who lives over in Spokane, and she constantly has activity. And the question is this government activity? There's a route here called Route 2, which is goes right out of Spokane, kind of towards Seattle. And I've had like 5 or 6 different people that are not associated with one another. They've never talked to one another. They've just shared their experience with me of some sort of a cigar-shaped craft or a triangular-shaped craft following them on Route 2, which is a very kind of desolate road. It's not very woodsy. It's very flat and kind of deserty, sagebrushy. But it's so strange because I was just meeting these random people, like my masseuse and my friend, and then someone at the yoga place, and they're all sharing with me these experiences that they've had just outside of Spokane that were extraterrestrial in nature. So I think it's definitely something that we are starting to see more, and we cannot kind of sweep it under the rug like we have been in the past,
Yeah. No, I mean, because there's just too many people coming forward seeing all this stuff. And, speaking of the government, possibly being involved in this stuff, the portal that opened up, I have a lot of questions about that because, we call it a portal because we don't know exactly what it is, but the way it was shaped, it was a cube. It just did not seem natural. Okay. And it makes me wonder, with all the deep underground bases that we have all over the country. And, I mean, could that be something that the government is using to, I don't know, maybe come in and out? Because we've actually also found tire tracks that stop dead in the middle of nowhere in that same field. So are there vehicles coming in and out of these things? I mean, there's more questions than answers, honestly. But it makes you wonder. And plus all the missing people that go, the David Paulides Missing 411 series. Our national parks and state parks, I mean, people go missing by the droves every year. And you got to wonder, where are those people going? Are they walking into the black cubes?
That's a good question. Or are they being taken down into these bases and being, kind of laboratory rats? Because I've watched the David Paulides movies many times. And the other night I watched it again, The Hunted, the one where the hunters go out. And it's just a little odd that these people go missing, but then a year or two later, their stuff shows up just randomly placed, in places. So it's just,
I know.
But do they slip through a timeline? Are they shifting timelines? Like, who knows? And I
don't think it's good.
It's not. And I'm very clairsentient. So that means I can feel energy very strongly. I can also hear energy very strongly, not so much see it, but I've been in places because we do a lot of hiking in the area in national parks, which are all owned by the government,
Yeah,
and so
I do too.
There's been times when I have sensed or felt an energy that felt off in an area, and you question what is that? What is there? Is there some sort of a cloaking aspect there? And I know with the Dark Pyramid, when I remote viewed that with you, there was some sort of a cloaking aspect to even get into the stairwell to get down into that Dark Pyramid. And we know that, that what do they say? The government is 50 years advanced than
way more.
Yeah, they're just
like way more, hundreds of years probably.
Yeah, and there's a large Sasquatch retreat here up in Colville. Washington, and they have a large turnout of people, and we've had some pretty significant Sasquatch experiences there with orb activity. And there's also supposedly a pyramid there in Colville, and you can see it from a distance. It looks like a mountain, but it's clearly a pyramid. And my friends and I, we tried to drive up to it, and every time we get close, it would go missing. We couldn't find it. And then we pull back, and then we'd see it, and then we drive closer, and we couldn't find it. It was very strange, but you wonder,
holographic or something.
Totally. And you wonder, is this, because you watch that show Project Blue Book, and they are in a mountain that kind of looks very similar to a pyramid, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you wonder if the government is, what we claim could be paranormal, they're doing in their everyday, lives.
I tend to think that, ever since the portal thing happened, I have my questions. Let's just put it that way. I have my questions, and it makes me a little upset because, I like to take my son out and go hiking and do fun things with him. Well, it's not safe. If we've got these things that we could just walk into and disappear, and now I got to worry about Dogman getting me and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, there's so much. This veil, I wish the veil would get thicker. I'm just kidding.
Well, and the thing is the question is too,
I'm kidding.
when we get close to the portals, is that when Dogman and Sasquatch show up because they're guardians of this area?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because I watched that show Expedition Bigfoot, and they were in Washington, very similar to an area where we, do some of our Sasquatch, searching. And they got to an area where there was a base, some sort of a base, and they were seeing some kind of cloaked things on their thermal cameras. And you wonder that. You're like, is there more activity around these entrances to these bases, or the entrances to these portals, or, whatnot. So it's all very, very interesting to think about.
It is. Well, we're out there doing the research. So, I can't guarantee we're going to have all the answers, but everything that we discover when we're out in the field, it just leads us to more questions. So,
it does. And so let's talk about some other cryptids. What are some other cryptids that you may have researched, or some information about that you could share?
I mean, I'm just trying to think around in my area. I had Connor Flynn on my show the other night on Space Out Radio, and he is like the cryptid king. And so,
he's in North Florida, right?
He is. Well, we both, our stomping grounds kind of overlap a little bit because I'm in Georgia and he's in Florida. And he and I were talking about everything from Pigman. I have a Pigman up here where I live.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a Pigman. We used to go to Pigman's house when I was in high school, and, get chased out of there and stuff when I was a teenager. But everything from Pigman to Lizard Man, there's a Lizard Man in South Carolina. Several people have reported, actually a lot of people have reported seeing the Lizard Man. Now, is that some kind of weird reptilian? I don't know. Sounds like it.
South. They like that area. It's very humid and warm. If you're going to see them, it's going to be in the South, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, we also have the Goat Man, and we have Goat Man's Bridge that Connor was telling us about. I don't know if that's in South Georgia. I'm sure there's goat men everywhere. Okay. But Goat Man, and that's pretty scary too.
Wasn't that the movie Narnia? There was a movie
Narnia,
with it.
Yeah.
I wonder, are these government experiments? And then because I even questioned that with the chupacabra. When I was in Puerto Rico, I went to the El Yunque National Forest, and at the time I wasn't really aware that that's the major home of the chupacabra, but we were there at night because we did the bioluminescent kayaking, thing. Wow. And we were hearing very strange noises. Now, I lived in Florida for 20 years, and there's a lot of strange noises that happen at nighttime in Florida, but in Puerto Rico, when you're and that's a national park as well, and there was some strange noises. And at the time I wasn't privy to recording it or whatnot, but I'm like, that's interesting. And I didn't even realize till I got home, I was sharing this with my friend from Puerto Rico. She goes, that's El Chupacabra. And I'm like, what? I never heard of that.
That's wild. Even the dog man, I've got a dog man in the county where I live in the northern part of the county for years, at least 10 years, maybe 20 years. There have been reports with the sheriff's department, because I know people who work at the sheriff's department, people calling the 911 center to say, report a werewolf in the road or running across the road around the area where my cousins live up there. So yeah, it's there's a lot of strange activity. There's actually been a lot of reports of UFOs up there. There's a waterfall and an interesting water source. It's beautiful in this area. It's very rural, like out in the country. But yeah, for years, I mean, people have reported a werewolf running around the side of the road. Yeah. But we have that. And, you think about water cryptids as well. So, down in Florida, Connor was telling us all about the sea serpent of Pensacola.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. And, it's not the only one that's been spotted. The sea serpent of Pensacola. There's been one in 1989. There was a gigantic, it looked like the Loch Ness monster was reported seen. Maybe it was more like long, and then it wasn't just the neck sticking out. It was like the whole body of a big creature that was 15 feet long in Panama City.
So is that in a freshwater lake, or was that found
the
like
ocean?
In the ocean. Interesting.
Yeah, the ocean. Yeah. So, I mean, there's all sorts of weird stuff going on, but mostly what I've dealt with out there are Bigfoot and aliens. Okay. We have a lot of ET activity out there. And, when I started researching alien abductions, after I had that incident out in the field where we had the UFOs flying over us, and had some other activity that happened in regards to the UFOs, the head of my team suggested that we all start reading up on aliens and alien abduction. So I started reading books like The Threat and Secret Life and Communion and all the normal alien abduction books. And I started having ET activity in my environment, and I actually saw them with my own eyes. I had twice. So I don't know if I manifested that though. So, I absolutely stopped reading up on them that day. I mean, I guess it was the second time, the second day after the second encounter, I was like, you know what? Yeah. I was like, I think I manifested that because I had never seen aliens before, especially not in my house, and it was a little too close and too personal.
Yeah, it can be startling when that happens because when I went home to visit my family in Western New York, I had a couple of friends who had shared with me their ET, what they think were abduction experiences. They lost track of time. They had marks on their body. So I specialize in quantum healing hypnotherapy. So I said, well, let's do a session. Let's do a past regression and see what comes up. And it was quite interesting that what I was really gathering is that there's certain bloodlines of people that have signed up for this on maybe a soul level that have said, I want to be a part of this abduction program or this hybridization program, so to speak. And so it was very healing for them because it allowed them, it was startling, but it also was healing for them to go a little bit back and figure out what was it that I experienced when I was in my teens or when I was a child. And who's to say all of us haven't been abducted or haven't, who I even don't outrule the fact that we are the aliens as well. Maybe the alien is us in a higher vibrational timeline or in a different aspect, and we come back to visit ourselves. And when we experience fear, it's because there's a shift in vibration. Right. And so it's like, I have seen a physical mantis being one time. I was in Western New York staying at my grandmother's farm. It was next to a farm, and I was out there all by myself, and I would come home at night and it is just pitch black, quiet out there, stars everywhere. And I thought I would personally see a Sasquatch, honestly, because it's just, very wooded area. But I had a friend staying with me, and I woke up that night and I had a full on apparition of a mantis being there. And oddly, I wasn't fearful. It was very telepathic the way that my interaction went. But how do you explain that to people? When you see it and no one else sees it and they're like, you saw an alien in your house? I 100% saw one. And to me, there was a very odd kind of knowing of this being. Like I was kind of like, I think I know who this being is, so that's really been my only interaction with an extraterrestrial. And it was in the wee hours of the night. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was going downstairs to use the restroom, and I walked out, and boom, it was like right there, So
wow. I saw almost probably the same thing that you've seen. I had the same type in my house, actually.
yeah, so it's like
Yeah, we'll have to exchange some stories. Yeah, I actually woke up one night, and there was a tall, it looked like the Grim Reaper standing by my bed, and the way it was moving, and it had its hands up, it looked like all I could think of was praying mantis, and I kept hearing that in my head, but I couldn't really move. It was one of those things where you wake up and you're like, I'm trying to make out what that is. There's something huge standing by my bed,
Yeah, that's terrifying when they're standing by your bed. I think even mine, just walking out, I remember going with like this with my eyes, like, am I really seeing this right now?
I know. I was doing that with mine too. I was blinking, like rolling my eyes around, trying to, because I had contacts in.
Yeah.
So they were all blurry. I was like, are my contacts just blurry? What am I looking at? So yeah, I mean, it was shocking, but at the same time, I just went back to sleep.
Yeah. And then you question it, because then I woke up that morning and I was like, I think I had an ET interaction last night. And he was like, what? And he goes, you were down there for a really long time. He goes, I heard you getting up and you're rustling around, whatever. And I'm like, it felt like 10 minutes, but I could have been down there for hours for all that I know.
Yeah. Knowing what we know now, right?
Now. And I think for me, it's just, when I do the CE5 and I communicate, it's like, I want you to show yourself in a way that's comfortable for me, because I think if they do show up in a way that's terrifying, it naturally, our frequency is going to be fearful, because it's something out of the matrix. It's something out of the norm that we've seen before. And it can be really scary, especially, I even think with a Bigfoot, as much as I love Sasquatch, I think if I were face to face with a 10-foot Sasquatch, I would probably, my initial reaction would be fear, but I've got a little technique that I'm going to use when I'm fearful.
What's your technique? Tell me.
When I'm in that paralysis state of, I'm looking at a Sasquatch, I'm literally going to work my way into my head and telepathically communicate. Okay, you're scaring the heck out of me. Make me laugh. Make me laugh. Make me laugh. Like, I want them to break the frequency, because I've heard that, at least in the Pacific Northwest, many of them are fun and playful. At least most of them. I can't speak for the skunk ape, but so I think just, if they've got to understand that their pure size, and the hairiness is probably going to be terrifying to any human, regardless if you've seen one or not. Even if you've seen one 5 times, you probably still get startled by it, So I don't know. That's my little technique.
That's smart.
Telepathically and speak to them. Like, okay,
that's really smart.
Because once they make you laugh, then you're like, oh my gosh, this is Harry and the Hendersons.
I know. All they do to me is scream and throw rocks and acorns at my tent all night. So
I've had that.
Like, come on, and it does make me kind of laugh a little bit. It's a little bit, I don't really get very scared out there. I can't remember the last time I got really scared, because I have been so inoculated to all the activity. Like, everybody on my team too, like, we've been out there so much with such weird stuff going on. We're pretty inoculated, is what we like to call it.
That's cool.
And but at the same time, it's not being able to sleep all night because something just screamed as loud as it could at you in your camp. It's a little close for comfort, and then to rub salt in the wound, they throw acorns at me all night. It's an experience, but I would not change that for anything. I am living life to the fullest and experiencing all that, Bigfoot has to offer. And I'm just here for the experience. And, I wish that more people could do the same things that I do, because it's fun and, mind opening. And, I think it raises the consciousness of everybody who experiences it,
Not even that, you get to get out in nature and spend some time. And I do feel when we as humans connect with nature, we raise our frequency, which allows us to experience these things. Most of the time when people are out in nature, they're having a blissful experience. They're out there doing things that they enjoy, which is raising their frequency, which can open them up to having these types of experiences because they are at the frequency of these beings, so it's very interesting. And I know, across the board, there's so many cryptids. I went online to look at them and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many. And it's like, most of them, there's a lot that live in Alaska, And,
oh, yeah.
I was talking to you earlier about the Thunderbird, which I think I'll pull the picture up.
I think that's awesome.
That's fantastic. And I have a friend who grew up in Alaska, and he swears that he saw one of these when he was driving down the road with a friend, and it was on the side of the road eating some carcass, and it stood higher than his huge pickup truck. He said it just was, and the wingspan, he said when they drove past it, and then it eventually flew away. And he said the wingspan was just huge. And, but yet you were talking about certain dinosaurs and things that you remote viewed up there as well. So who knows if that was a Thunderbird or not,
Yeah. Well, that was actually part of my data for the remote viewing that I did of the pterosaurs. I remote viewed modern day pterosaurs, which are like a pterodactyl. I think a pterodactyl is one of, it kind of falls under that umbrella term. And so there have been sightings of these flying lizards all over the country for the past, at least the past like 5 to 10 years. There's been a bunch of these sightings, and I had no idea how many until I put it on my social media. And I had my entire inbox was full with people like, oh, I've seen these. You wouldn't believe, I don't know why, it wanted to fly over. I live in a trailer park out here and, wherever. And they're like, and I've seen 2 of them, people, I got so many messages like that. And it's just like, oh, I could not believe it, but I remote viewed it. And part of the data was saying that some of these pterosaurs have been here for, since the beginning of time. Basically, they've always been here. It's even what some of them are what the Native Americans would consider a thunderbird. Okay, some of them, there may be multiple different types of thunderbirds. Who knows? But they've been here, and it's not that they're like paranormal. It's not like they're coming in and out of portals. I didn't get that, which I thought was odd, because I thought it was totally going to be like interdimensional or something. No, it's just that we haven't been able to see them.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't been able to see them because we have not been on that frequency with them. We've been on different frequencies, and now we're on a frequency where we can see things like that.
Interesting.
Even though you and I can talk about this and understand it, but a lot of people don't understand that. It just sounds very foreign.
Well, it's kind of like so they used to call remote viewing, before they named it remote viewing, was called astral traveling. I did some research on it. It's very interesting. I didn't realize that. But when we astral travel and you see things, right? I astral travel. I actually did a video on this on my podcast, and it would be really kind of interesting to be able to see in our with our regular eyes what we would see in the astral realm. I mean, it'd probably be slightly terrifying at first, because we're just sitting here right now and I look out the window and I see a pterodactyl fly by. And you're like, whoa, what are we in? Jurassic Park? Like, what's going on?
I know. I mean, it would be weird for me. I'd be like, oh, wow, that's weird. Okay. Well, I saw that. Yay. It to me, it wouldn't be like life changing. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, because I know they're here. Just like I know that Bigfoots are here. And I know that, Dogman and sea serpents and all that kind of stuff. Like it's all out there. And people may think I'm crazy, if I talked about it, but it's not so shocking to me anymore. Nothing shocks me anymore. Just because of the things that I've seen and experienced, I've seen orbs with faces in them. Okay.
Yes, I have too. And I think,
what is that?
You question it. Yeah. Is that a being? Is that their device to get them around, and it's all, too. I've even been at places where we've done the sound bowls out in the woods, and we have had a lot of what look like portals opening or orb activity, even out of our bodies. When you play the sound bowls and you take pictures of your body, it's like you have this, I had one where there was like a purple flame, like flying out of the back of my head. I'm like, what is that?
Wow.
So it's just really
That's
neat.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think too, if you guys used that technology, have you used that in the field, like tuning forks or sound bowls and stuff? Yeah.
Well, we some of the guys will take out drums or didgeridoos and or Indian flutes or something like that, and it does attract a lot of activity, actually. So, and it's all about that frequency, and maybe it's raising our frequency, so we're able to see things more and communicate more. Who knows? It's so really fun. Neat. Yeah.
And this is all so fascinating. And I know there's so much that we can talk about. But I want to just kind of end with it. I'm fascinated with Skinwalker Ranch. I drove through there one time.
Did you?
I was in Utah. I didn't even know I was driving through Skinwalker Ranch. I was kind of in the area. And it was late at night when I was driving through there. I look back and I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I'd have the balls to do that right now. But, it was kind of intense. But what are your thoughts around the ranch and maybe even what a skinwalker is?
Yeah. Well, I actually had an elder of I have some friends, okay, Native American. And one of the gentlemen told me one weekend, I was camping out with them. And he told me, I was asking him about skinwalkers, and this was before my team started researching what we call the South Skinwalker Ranch. But I was already researching other areas that were comparable to that. But he said, he could turn me into one, but it would cost me my life, basically.
Interesting.
I didn't ask him any more questions at all. I just left it. I was like, okay, I don't even want to know. Okay.
Not my reality.
Because it's not my reality. But there's legends. There's, Native American legends saying that, people can turn into skinwalkers, and there are medicine men that are able to do that. So it's interesting. I don't know exactly what a skinwalker is, other than maybe something like that. We hear about the werewolves and the dogmen, and I think that for centuries, I believe that the Bigfoots and the dogmen, I think that they've all been here this whole time, and in some cases, they've had a relationship with some of the indigenous people to the lands that we live on and stuff. So. It's very interesting. I think it has way more of a history than we're told.
I think you and I need to remote view Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
What if there's a pyramid underneath or something? It's you wonder.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's pyramids everywhere.
I do too.
All over this place. And I think that everybody should go watch that remote viewing show that Tanya and I did, because it is really interesting. And I mean, there's so much more to learn about it. And in the picture that you drew with the Merkaba and the crystals in it and stuff, there's so much more to it that we need to look into, because there's a lot of hidden knowledge, ancient secrets and things that we're trying to uncover. We're trying to put the pieces together, right, Tanya?
Definitely. And it's like when you attach the ley lines to the sacred land, to the portal activity, to the pyramids, to
all the star seeds that are over here right now.
That are waking up. Yeah. There is so much.
There's something going on here.
There's definitely something going on here. And we were brought here for a reason. And the more we interact with one another, the more we wake each other up, we activate one another. I was telling Jessica before that I always see number 44, but I connected with her a week or so ago, and now I'm seeing 66, and this is her number that she sees all the time.
And I just saw 40. I saw 4444 today, so that was this morning. So did we just switch?
I think it's almost like we harmonize frequencies,
Yeah.
I don't know. I still even question all of that. Why are some of us seeing certain number sequences? Does that indicate what frequency we're on? I don't know.
I've been seeing 66 for at least the past 15 years, at least, maybe longer than that. It might have been like almost 20 years now. I see 66 every single day.
That's funny. And I saw it yesterday, almost to the point it was obnoxious. It was just disgusting. And I'm like, this is a new number for me. And it's really funny that this is your number. So it's like, there's definitely a harmonization there, because the universe is always trying to harmonize, energies. And I do think when we connect, we balance and harmonize. So that was really interesting that happens.
That is. Now I'm going to be on the lookout. I'm not going to be on the lookout. I'm sure it's just going to come up in my face and be like 44 all over the place.
You'll be out doing something, and then you look at the clock and you're like, oh,
44. I'm going to have to call you and be like, I saw 44 again.
But I guess the moral of that story is there's so much out there. What do they say? Our human eyes can only see roughly, it's like under 5% that of what we see.
It's getting to be more, though, because that veil has thinned and the vibration and the frequencies are changing. And I feel like it is something in our eyes. It is. There is something inside of us that we just couldn't see all these things. And that's backed up by that remote viewing data of that pterosaur. It was like, we just couldn't see it. It's always been here. Yes. So yeah, who knows?
So cool. It's so fun. Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed this whole conversation.
Me
We're wrapping
too.
up almost in an hour, which I think is good. And I know there's so much more that we can talk about. But I appreciate you coming on the show. And if people want to reach you, where can they reach out to learn more about what you're sharing in the world?
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, the easy place to go would be my website, thecryptidhuntress.com. It has all of my social media links and all my shows and everything. My remote viewing shows are all posted there. But of course, you guys can go to Spaced Out Radio on YouTube and watch my shows every Saturday and Sunday night. I'm on the East Coast, so it's 10 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be like 7 across the country, but every Saturday, Sunday, and then on Fridays I have my remote viewing show with the guys from Texas Front Porch, and that's at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And I have a lot of really cool videos I put out. I try to do like spiritual guidance and card readings and stuff on my YouTube channel. So y'all just go to the Cryptid Hunters, you'll find me.
You've also got an Etsy page. True.
I do. Right? Yeah. And I have an Etsy shop. It's called War Woman Goods. And I sell like Native American vintage jewelry and things like that. So yeah, thank you. It's on Etsy. You can find me there, and on Instagram.
Very cool. Very cool. And I love the Spaced Out Radio. I've been watching that now. And Jessica has me as a guest in June. I think it's June 12th, I think.
It's going to be on a Sunday.
My paranormal experiences that I experienced working in the hospitals around dying. So, and I'm also going to share some of my Sasquatch experiences and stuff too. So I'm really
we are going to have so much fun.
We're going to have so much fun. And you also have Ron coming up soon, right?
This Saturday. Yeah. I have Ron Moorhead he's going to be on my show. I've been dying to interview him. I actually met him back in 2013 at a Bigfoot conference here in Georgia. I met him and R. Scott Nelson, and they were talking about the Sierra Sounds and where Ron Moorhead and his friend recorded Bigfoot's talking. And I have that CD. It was on a CD with the book, and he autographed my book. And I was like, man, this is really cool. So he's going to be on my show. We're going to talk about Bigfoot language. R. Scott Nelson is the guy who actually transcribed the language and heard, he's a linguist, or he worked for the Navy and transcribed languages and things like that. So it's going to be a fun show. We're also going to throw a little alien stuff in there. So we're going to talk about the alien connection to Bigfoot this weekend.
I'm excited about that language because personally, I feel they're speaking some sort of a cosmic language. I feel, because I hear different light languages, and I speak in my sessions, oftentimes different light languages will come out.
Oh, yeah.
And I've heard that Sasquatch language in a variety of forms, and it sounds very similar to some of that cosmic language. And it's almost like I explained it. It's like on Star Wars when Jabba the Hutt speaks to to Han Solo, and Han talks back. There's like some universal cosmic language that we all know. It's in our subconscious mind. It just has to be activated.
I am so glad you said that. Okay, so let me tell you what I did. My old show is called Into the Portal. I actually did a show where I compared Bigfoot language to light language, and I brought my friend Joelle on, who speaks light language, and we made the connection. And I said, I don't know if there's a connection, but I'm going to put this out there anyways, because I feel the connection between Bigfoot language and light language, and I'm going to talk to Ron about that this weekend. So. Yeah, I'll send you a link to my show, but it's called it was Joelle Biak was my guest, and we talked about light language with Bigfoot.
That's awesome. And I love that because they've got the whoops and the, the noises, but there is also a verbal language that they speak back and forth. To one another. And it's a combination. Star Wars movies. There's a lot of disclosure.
Exactly. Well, their voices, their language is a mix between like archaic Japanese and German and Spanish and English and even Native American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. It's almost like very ancient sounding. It's very ancient, but it's also very futuristic.
Yes.
So,
and there's a lot of that. Sometimes I've spoken languages where it's that deep throat, kind of almost like a gaggy sound. And you hear that in some of their language. And I'm like, gosh, I've heard that. That one Sasquatch retreat I was at, they did a light language activation where everyone sat in a circle and one person was in the middle. And the one person in the middle was the one who would speak. And there was maybe 30 people there, and every person had a different dialect. It was fascinating. And me, I get in the middle. I don't speak a word. I start signing like crazy person.
Wow.
And the guy who was activating everyone goes, that's cosmic sign language. And I'm like, I had never heard of this before. Well, then eventually I started to develop it, and now I can speak all these different dialects. But it was very interesting that I was the one who, I wasn't even speaking. I was just, my hands wouldn't stop moving. So that was a really interesting thing that happened. And I was like, oh my gosh. But it's funny, in some of my sessions, I will activate people in their sign language or in their light language. And it's like, I call it cosmic orgasms, where you get the chills and they start from your feet, and it's more than just goosebumps. I mean, it is like your body kind of vibrates, you know? And I've had several people get activated, and I will cry. It's so emotional. You're just like, oh my gosh, like they're clearing dense energy, and you can feel it and sense it. So I can't wait to see that one with Ron, because I'm excited to see what comes up.
Yeah, I know. I felt like I sounded so crazy when I made that connection, and then I brought my friend Joelle on, and we really, put it together pretty well. So I can't wait for you to see that show that we did. It was actually really good. And then this Saturday, I get to talk to, it's like the godfather of Bigfoot speak, coming on my show.
I know.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
He's got some fascinating, he's done some fascinating research on Bigfoot. So, well, this is exciting. Thank you, Jessica. I'm so happy we jumped on here and we were able to chat about all these fun paranormal things. And
heck yeah.
I look forward to being on your show next month. And I look forward to seeing all the amazing speakers that you have on your different podcasts.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. Yeah. Yes. I feel like we're going to be a good remote viewing duo too. So.
I agree.
Yeah.
Put Skinwalker Ranch on your list, because I think that
we'll
would be
do
a
it.
fun one.
We'll do it. I'll bring you on my show. We'll do it. Yeah. Okay. Right. Obsidian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye.